We have returned. We're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, in which we have a casual and informal discussion about Star Trek. Right now, we're focused on Star Trek: The Next Generation. Wait, say something and do it again, Gary.
Oh my god. Space, the final frontier.
Very
There you go.
nice.
The
There we go.
Enterprise.
That's the Enterprise D. I've been waiting for 3 seasons to see the Enterprise D on the screen, and the Doctor could not provide me with that. But you, Gary, thank you, thank you,
Oh my god!
thank you, Gary.
You're gonna make me go and dig in that box for the D.
Not right now. Maybe during my summary, since you like to make noise. No,
Okay.
I'm just
All
kidding.
right.
Doctor, I'm totally just kidding. So today's episode, and it's actually kind of cool that there's 3 of us here because we can pretend we're in captivity.
Wow.
Today's episode is Allegiance. Who wants to do the summary, or shall I do it?
You should do it.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to do it, it'd be very, very short.
Okay. So the episode starts out pretty routine. The Enterprise had just finished eradicating a plague on a planet that I don't remember, but it sounds like Cuckoo Kadoo or something like that. It did. It's a Cuckoo Kadoo. We've eradicated the plague. The secret
Mad
plague.
cuckoo birds. Yeah.
The secret plague of planet Cuckoo that you didn't know about, Ensign. You shouldn't know about. That's how I know. Anyways, so Picard's just chilling in his quarters, relaxing, and then the monolith from 2001 appears over his bed and abducts
That's a
him.
good one.
It does. That's right. And it kind of it abducts him and it puts him in this room. And there's just I think just one other person was there when he arrived. And then they start, and he realizes, oh, he's been kidnapped. But in the meantime, the kidnappers have placed a doppelganger or duplicate on the Enterprise, and everything seems okay at first, sort of. Do you have 2 Picards?
Yes.
You should have been prepared for this episode, Doctor.
But they're different scales, so it wouldn't have worked.
I guess that's true. That's true. Anyway, so while Captain Picard and his captors are trying to figure out a way to escape captivity, on board the Enterprise, the duplicate Captain Picard is just doing slightly bizarre things that you wouldn't expect Captain Picard to do, like join the crew for poker, ask Geordi to, bring the engine efficiency up higher, and then also instead of warping to a pulsar star system, he's got them warping quickly. He's got them going at like warp 2, which will take like several hours to get there. So the crew starts to grow suspicious of the new captain, and then the straw that breaks the camel's back is when he starts singing in 10 forward. Apparently that was too much for Commander Riker to bear, and he calls a secret meeting with the rest of the crew, and they discuss.
You're forgetting the true straw that broke the camel's back, which is the dinner with Beverly.
Oh, I was saving that for the episode so we could talk more deeply about it because it's such a good thing. Someone's staticky, but that's okay. I think it's Gary. Gary's gone. Oh no, we can't hear you. There you are. Something's going on.
He's being abducted.
You're being abducted. Yeah, now you sound good. Okay. Whoa. Okay. Anyways, while Gary statics in the background there, okay. So what ends up happening is the duplicate captain is ordering the Enterprise to go. Well, he has that weird, bizarre dinner with Beverly, where he dances with her. And then, oh no, we're definitely having technical difficulties. Gary, you can't hear your own static?
I can't hear anything. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you now. But when you're not, something you're doing is causing static, and I think it's the wire on your headphones. Nope, I was wrong about that.
The wire. Maybe that's it.
Oh, yeah.
It's your mic.
It's your mic.
Oh.
Yowzers.
Yowzers, indeed.
Just like move it down a little bit. There, talk. Keep moving
we
it
can't
down.
hear.
Yeah, keep moving it down. Right,
Still?
right there,
How
right
about
there.
now?
Hold
How
it
about
there.
now?
Yeah, right there.
Hold it there.
Don't.
Okay.
Yeah, you can let go, but you're not there anymore. You could just switch to your other audio, your computer audio. We're fine with that. While Gary does that, I'll go. I'll go on with our summary. So, anyways,
Now, can you hear me now?
yes,
Yes.
Ah, cool. Okay.
and it's actually quite appropriate because now you sound like you're in a captivity room. There's like a
Thank
nice
you.
echo going on. But the duplicate captain orders the Enterprise to go even closer to the pulsar, putting the ship at risk, and so that's when Riker finally takes command of the Enterprise, and Captain Picard tries to thwart the takeover, but unfortunately, at this point, everyone's lost confidence in him, and so they agree with with Commander Riker. Meantime, on the in the holding pen in which the 4 characters are being held, Captain Picard finally figures out through just a few slips of the ensign, who is actually working at, she's actually one of the aliens that abducted them in disguise as a Bolian, I believe.
Yes.
He figures out that she couldn't have known about the plague on Kukukadu, and so that lets him know that she's actually working with, or is part of the people who are holding them captive. And he says, "I refuse to play this game. The charade is over. I refuse to play this game anymore." And then after that, the aliens reveal themselves, and they're kind of cool, interesting looking, very flashy, very 90s purple costumes. They look kind of like they should be in an episode of Batman, actually, like the classic Batman. And on that note, cheers to Adam West, who passed away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, indeed.
But anyways, so once it's revealed, the aliens no longer have any interest in the captives because the experiment is known. So they return Captain Picard to his ship, and he sees his duplicate and realizes what's been going on. He then non-verbally gives his crew the order to hold these aliens captive, and all of a sudden they can't take the heat that they dished out earlier. They're freaked out. They're held in this energy shield, and Captain Picard basically teaches them a lesson, saying, "Hey, nobody likes to be held captive. Do your experiments in the computer. Stop experimenting on actual people." And that's it. Bob's your uncle. The episode's over.
That was great.
Just a side note, the plague is on Caroli 5.
Oh, I was close. Cuckoo Kadoo sounds
like
very
close. Yes. Great job there.
So what'd you guys think of this episode? Wow.
You first, Doctor.
I wasn't I wasn't very impressed. I thought it should have either have been, and it either should have been that Picard was kidnapped, and we would have just had the whole episode with the crew dealing with this doppelganger, which actually was entertaining. Or it should have been
Here's to the finest crew in Starfleet.
Yeah, indeed. Or it should have all been vested in Picard in his captivity. But I think with the back and forth, the episode suffered a lot because neither of the two situations played out as well as it could have, especially the captivity part. There was no tension for me at all with Picard and his fellow captives. I mean, really, they spent the whole episode stuck in that room, and all they managed to do was open a door which showed another door. I mean, it was just really boring. I didn't feel that the that creature with the teeth. You know, he was without food for what, like 3 days or something, and I didn't feel
Isak.
like Isak, right? And I didn't feel like there was any. He was any closer to eating any of them, really. I mean, it's like I thought that's what was supposed to happen, you know. And then the little trick that Picard revealed, that this is how he knew that the Bolian cadet was the imposter. You know, it was very convenient because, you know, you had three characters from three completely different places. No, two characters from two completely different places, but then you had two from the Federation, which I thought was so convenient. So I don't know. I wasn't too impressed with that part of the episode. I liked more the crew dealing with the duplicate Picard and just this at first very subtle ways that he was different. And you know, you had to wonder, do they prefer this Picard or the real Picard? I mean, you know, the Picard that comes into the 10 forward and starts singing with his crew seems kind of nice. I mean, you know, I mean, maybe the crew would prefer him. You know, he's hanging out with them and he's singing with them. I don't know. Maybe some people would like this guy better.
Come cheer up, my lads.
I don't know the song.
I don't know the song either, but it's called Heart of Oak. It's an old British. It's a British naval.
Which everyone
song.
Apparently knows on the Enterprise.
Except Geordi. In that scene, Geordi's like,
right.
But it is odd that like this small group of people that happen to be sitting at a table in 10 forward knows, and then Picard just goes right over to them. He's like, these are the real people on this ship. They know these.
Maybe they were all the British officers.
Except that he's not even British. He's French.
But it's a British naval song, you said.
Yeah, it is. That's true.
So maybe that's why. Yeah.
I think it's cool that British naval songs survive in the future, and that after you know, in the academy they sing them after training cruises or whatever he said.
After being impaled by Nausicaans and stuff.
By Nausicaans, that's true. That's interesting that you liked if I'm getting this clear, the part about the folks in captivity didn't interest you at all because you kind of thought it was like weakly put together, but you did enjoy the duplicate Picard shenanigans basically, and like seeing how the crew responds to these subtle differences.
I thought that was, and I thought the standout scene was the one with him and Crusher. I thought that scene was fantastic.
It really
it actually explained a lot. Sal, you're a witness to my ongoing frustrations with from day one. Picard and Crusher never got together, and I've always had issues with that. I'm like, why doesn't it happen? And I think maybe I didn't pay attention sufficiently the first time I saw this episode, but finally I think they had a real conversation about why it doesn't happen.
That they didn't, which is the sad part, right? Because like duplicate Picard had the conversation with Crusher, but real Picard's still in the dark about her, you know, some of the things that they discussed.
But I'm assuming. Go ahead.
No, not for any longer. You know, there will be an episode when they've been connected in a cycle link or something, and they actually can hear each other's thoughts. And so there's a couple of details when they'll then.
But that's like in the last season.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
so I won't be there for a few years. Yeah,
right. So it's years and years. I'm like, why the hell these people don't get together? So I was always frustrated with that. But I thought that actually was a standout sequence, standout scene. And I think the acting was great. And I want to ask the two of you guys, because, you know, another thing I wish we had understood more was the actual cloning process, because
the aliens describe it.
But so then, when duplicate Picard is having this conversation with Beverly, he is doing so based on what he knows of Picard.
Yeah, it's like a not quite perfect duplicate, but what they said, the aliens said that they have developed the technology which can kind of reproduce biological matter with their transporter technology, or their replicator technology rather, and even the subtle kind of nuances of the brain tissue where memories are stored, right?
Exactly. So this duplicate Picard is making decisions based on the same data, let's say, that the original Picard does, but because he's a duplicate and he is actually a different person, he's making different decisions.
Right.
Which is very interesting. It's like it's really truly an alternate Picard.
Right.
And
it's actually yeah. And so that's the thing, is that this is a Picard that, while this is kind of like one of those things where, you know, the question comes up, you know, what makes us who we are? You know, like, for example, I fantasize constantly about ways of, like, I wouldn't mind a clone of myself to help me work, like clone.
I would hate
like
that.
Clone Sohail goes off and does, you know, earns some extra money, while me, Sohail, Starfleet Boy here, clone Starfleet Boy and regular Starfleet Boy. Can you imagine if I had two
slave Sohail and
no, it's not. He'd be like totally.
You're saying one is working and the other is not. I mean...
No, the other, they're just working on different things. One Sohail would be recording Starfleet Boy episodes. The other Sohail would be, you know, maybe working at your local Starbucks. In fact, there could be like 10 of us just around the city, you know, like doing different things. Maybe
just plug them into the cable as well, just to recharge them every night.
Yeah, we'll just be like a collective. It'll be like a collective. We're all interconnected.
Wow.
You know, we all.
You will be there, Borg King, Sohail King. There you go.
I mean,
it's scary.
It is.
I'm very disturbed by this line of thought. Sohail.
Come on, you guys have never fantasized about a clone version of yourself, like
just
to help you in your daily life?
No.
That's the event the twin brothers for.
Right, that's true.
So it was a really bad joke.
Well,
I don't know,
okay,
man.
so maybe that is a little weird. Okay. But going back to Picard, so it describes it, you know, it goes into what makes us who we are, and it's not just our memories. There's a lot of things, and I think an environmental situation helps, and then also as good as their technology is, the duplicate Picard is also somehow being controlled by, or at least under the influence of, the three alien. Like, it looked like the aliens can converge, and then they become this. It's very trippy stuff to think about, because they clearly have really advanced technology. And it looks like to me, the episode, at least in that regard, was making some kind of commentary on the way that some science has been conducted in the past in our own history, you know, and you know, I don't know if, you know, I don't want to be so naive as to say that, you know, experiments like this don't occur anymore. It is possible that, like, you know, governments that don't have the kind of like moralistic or whatever, you know, philosophical understanding of you know, how to treat your fellow human kindly, may in fact do experiments like this still today. There may be awful things like this going on in secret, but I think it was a commentary on a lot of kind of things in human history where, you know, humans were used as experiments to further some scientific knowledge. And granted, we might have achieved, you know, a knowledge that may have ended up helping more people because of these things, but it still leaves a scar, I think, on the human soul, or the human condition, if you will. So that was interesting for me. I also liked the characterizations of the three captives outside of Picard, because the one guy whose name I can't remember, when he talks about how his species just surrenders basically like to whoever's conquering them, and that's how they've survived. And Picard even seems like a little, you know, perturbed by that.
Is that
idea.
from Mintaka? Is that the guy, or is that the
No,
other
the
one?
Mintakans were the Vulcan-like people, and that
Oh
was
no, he's a Misarian.
Misarian.
Sorry,
He's loving Misarian. Haro.
Haro. That's no Haro. Isn't Haro
Oh no,
the
hang on.
ensign?
That's
The ensign
Ford.
is
Yes.
Haro.
Isn't it as Argolian? What the heck? I thought it's a Bolian. I thought she's a Bolian, honestly.
She's a Bolian. We're talking about the other guy, the guy who was already in the room, who.
Yeah, that's Toll. Peace loving Misarian.
Yeah.
And then Haro, and that's what Trekkerprise says. Haro, an Argolian and Starfleet Academy cadet. And
Okay.
Oh, so she's not a Bolian?
I was so confused. I thought she's a Bolian. That's what she said. She's a Bolian.
I could have totally been wrong. You know, I did
Wow.
say.
No, but I do.
No,
I
but
do
I thought
remember
so
she
too.
said a
Yeah,
Bolian.
we all thought. Yeah.
And she said she's a Bolian.
She says she's a Bolian, right?
Yeah.
To be a Bolian or not to be a Bolian, that is the question. Anyways, the interestingly enough, that character reminded me of the it was still Doctor Who at the time, I think. Doctor Who episode where
the last Doctor Who episode.
The last Doctor Who the last Doctor Who season
that I watched.
That the Doctor watched. By the way, just a little here's a little Doctor Who or time traveler moment. Last night's episode.
Oh, the Ice Warriors
was actually pretty fantastic in my opinion. I really enjoyed that one.
I'll give it a watch.
Yeah, you got to really see it, and it's that's all I'm gonna say. Yeah. I was riveted by it, and then there's just some cool TARDIS-y stuff that happens in it too, which I was riveted by. But
spoilers.
Anyways, but in that Doctor Who episode, 11th Doctor era, where they're trapped in the hotel, it's kind of a similar vibe to this episode in that they can't get out of this place.
I thought you were going to mention the alien from the 12th Doctor episode, the one who they always surrendered everybody. Remember?
That's the 11th Doctor. What's the one?
No, but he's in the one with the giant. That's a two-parter where they're in the base underwater.
Oh, there was one there too. You're right.
Yeah, remember? Yeah,
you're right. Well, I was
the Fisher King. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I was referring to the 11th Doctor in which they're trapped in the hotel, and he sees his, everyone's
greatest fears or whatever.
Their greatest fears or whatever. Yeah, and the Minotaur or whatever it is that's like
right.
Them. Well, that one character almost even looks like aesthetically similar. They kind of look like the same kind of alien. And it's a similar thing where, they've been around forever and they're peaceful because they've allowed their conquerors to, take over or whatever. So interesting differences in perspective, who's to say which philosophy is more correct if it's not at the end of the day, if lives are being saved. But I prefer the human, the human stance. But yeah, so that was something that I thought was interesting. I did think that the Nausicaan-like creature, what was his species again?
Hang on. Charnot.
The Charnot.
The Charnot.
That was a hell of a makeup.
Charnoit. Noth. Yes, sorry.
Interesting. Anyways, he was cool, but again, I agreed that there wasn't really a lot of fear or tension provided by his character. And it was fun to see them all working together to try to get out of the situation and all the kind of back and forth. So basically, it was just a way to showcase again the characters, but also especially to kind of show Captain Picard in these two different lights. I think that like the writers were doing something interesting here where they were saying like, here's an alternate vision of Captain Picard running around, running amok on the ship. And here's the real Captain Picard that we know. And here are the actions that he would take. And it's like, it does make you wonder like, which Captain Picard is more effective or whatnot. And I think we find what's interesting about this episode too is like these two kind of extreme circumstances allow us to see, possibly because of the nature of how accurate the duplicate was, two different sides of Captain Picard's own personality. And later you do see, I think, the actual Captain Picard evolve into a little bit softer. You know, it takes him till the 7th season to finally sit down with his crew and have poker, till the very last episode to have a game of it's blackjack they're playing, I think. And you know, and some of these other things. And I don't think we see him sing again. We might, until Star Trek Insurrection, when he sings with Worf. But all British Star is it something. That's from Gilbert and Sullivan. But anyways, so yeah, on the whole, though, the episode really didn't take us any further, but it didn't even set us back, really. I don't know. So yeah, I think that's about all I garnered from the episode. And then I just like was excited to see that the Pogo song that I love so much, this is the episode where they took the inspiration from. Have you not seen the Pogo song, Doctor? I don't know if I can do this. Let me see if I can pull it up. Well,
Pogo?
But Gary, we haven't heard anything about your thoughts on the episode.
Well, oh my. No, I totally agree with you. I totally like the scene that they actually have in the captivity. I would think actually the end of the episode, like if Picard if Picard is not there, Iso could have killed everyone in that room instantly, because he was just like pissed off and everything, and he even killed the alien, and then he just kills everyone basically, because that's how he reacts at the first time. And the second thing that I was thinking about is the Bolian. Why does she has a hair? She's the only Bolian in the Star Trek history who does have a hair.
Maybe
she's not Bolian.
Yeah, she's not Bolian.
But she said she was Bolian.
She said she's Bolian.
Right.
And I can't think
they hadn't decided on.
I didn't even see any other Bolian with a hair.
No. Uh-oh.
Do you guys hear this?
No.
Well, anyways.
This is a beautiful one. This is a beautiful movie.
This looks very scary.
No, if you listen to it, it will make sense, and it's amazing, honestly. Almost 3 million views.
So, Doctor,
what is the relationship between this and the episode? I forget.
He uses a sound
bite. The same line at the beginning, yeah.
The same line at the beginning.
Oh.
Every time in the academy.
Yeah, you guys. I mean, Gary's already seen it, but Doctor, your mission, should you choose to accept, is to, at some point after your homework, is to go watch the Pogo video.
Mm-hmm.
We live in interesting times. Anyways, sorry, Gary. So, Gary, you liked the.
I did like the episode in that part, the captivity part. Yeah, because it really, as you said, it gave us a different opinion about how everyone handles captivity, and Picard really made a good point of we should work together instead of just and do something rather just than sitting around and wait till the eternity, or at least till Iso gets hungry and start to kill everyone. But yeah, I think it was very well performed in from his side. The other Picard, the alternate Picard, well, he was, I don't know, at the beginning he seemed like he's himself, but obviously with the odd acting and the odd situation that he caused, it's like even threatening Riker and the normal Picard would never do that. And even Riker realized it at one point. And I was I quite liked the scene when they had this dinner with Crusher and Beverly. Well, Picard says like, okay, we should call the night off, and Beverly was like, wow, she gave the look for Jean-Luc, like, really? I was like, what just happened now? We just had a moment, and then you just call it off. and she just close the door and good
I
night.
do.
What?
That reminds me. I thought I did think that Picard was kind of a dick.
It was, yeah. In that
scene.
situation, he was still smiling and doing this his usual charm, but that was like, wow. Even
But if
Beverly
I
was
recall
like, wow.
earlier, she wanted to she was kind of like, okay, well maybe we shouldn't, do this, and then he like invites her to dance, right? Isn't that what it is? And then she's like, oh, I thought you don't dance, and it was kind of manipulative. So yeah, I didn't like douchey romantic Picard at all. I prefer regular Picard,
Regular Picard,
who's reserved and holds back his true feelings so as not to jeopardize their mission.
Well, let me ask the two of you, what exactly, how would you characterize the mission of Doppelganger Picard? Was it just to go aboard this ship and test all of the, shall we say, allegiances that people have to Picard, whether they be those of crew to captain, friend to friend, counselor to captain? I mean, was it just that? I mean, what do you think would have been? What if the crew had just okay, you know what? He's the captain. We have to follow him, even though this is crazy. I mean, it seemed like he was really bringing the ship into danger as they were getting closer to that star. I mean, what was the end game there? Was he gonna, at the very last second, just like do what he did with Crusher, bring you right to the brink? You think something's gonna happen, and then like, nope, sorry, let's turn around.
Yeah, I think when the abductors are held at the end in the force field, they're pleading with Captain Picard, to let them go, and they even say, but no harm, we actually did no harm. And Picard
did no harm, but what would have happened?
But Picard says that the imprisonment alone is an injury upon us, and so in a way, they not only held Captain Picard captive, but in a way they were also holding the crew of the Enterprise captive, because they replaced, the Enterprise the command structure. The Enterprise just itself relies on Captain Picard being of sound mind and body, right? Like, he is the ultimate, and we've talked about this before. There's not a court following on the Enterprise that goes along with it. There's not like a governing body or like a quorum of 12 or what have you on board the Enterprise, like in Battlestar Galactica. But I think that, like, I don't think that I think they're genuine in that statement. I think something had the Enterprise crew followed his orders and gone even closer, which I don't think they would have. First of all, I think that's something they would have been incapable of. Like, ultimately, I think as much as we are good at following authority figures, humans do have a sense of self-preservation, but
the aliens don't know that. That's what
right, that's what I'm saying is they would have realized this at some point.
Would they?
And that was that was the point of their experimentation, because they say to him also in the captivity is that all they're trying to do is study humans or other species that have these kind of command structures, because they don't have anything like that. They're all equally the same. All of them are just exactly the same. So they operate as though they're one autonomous being. And so they don't understand, the concept of allegiance, because they're just one thing, like, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
no, absolutely. I would agree as well.
Or similar.
No, they're all the same, is what they say in that little speech. They're like, we don't have this, system of governance or, command structure in our society, and so we're very curious about it, and about leadership and things like that. So yeah, I don't think
the same thing comes back in later season. I think it's season 7, when the free ambassador comes to the Enterprise, and one of them sticks with Diana, and they want to understand the pleasure, but Diana get him into use some chocolate, and then the other one is the anger. So he's always like picking Mr. Worf, and then Picard gets stranded in the planet, and try to understand, and the other one try to understand compassion. So it's like I'm pretty sure they weren't hostile as a race in this episode. They were just simply curious, and that's their way how to examine the situations and how to understand themselves and the concept that other species lives by. So it's just it's a bit interesting how they approach the situation. Obviously it wasn't really convenient for the crew of the Enterprise and for the captives.
Well, it also goes back to the idea of like, in much the same way that we humans today, we use primates for experimentation. And to us, it's like, oh, we're not doing any harm to the primates. We're not like, these animals that we keep in, not to get all on a soapbox here or anything like that, but, we keep these animals in captivity, and we think, we think it's justified because we're doing experiments on them, like exposing them to diseases, or even cosmetics in some cases are tested on animals and things like that. And we think it's okay. So to this alien species, like until the captive experimented upon creature bites back, as they did in this situation where Captain Picard bites back literally by holding them in a force field, they had no idea they were doing any harm to us. They were like in another, they're whatever way they operate and see the universe and function, they didn't think that they were creating any injury, stress, or harm to us. They just thought, oh, we're just doing an experiment, no one's being harmed, when in fact there is harm being done. So again, I think that's where I saw the value of this episode, was the commentary on experimentation in captivity and all these kinds of things.
I think use the terms of value of the episode. I think for me it was definitely a nice showcase for the makeup work done on the show. I think the creature from that anarchist planet, I forget what it was called. That's a hell of a makeup. I can't imagine how difficult that must have been to endure. I mean, with the teeth going up, I thought that makeup was extraordinary. And then the two aliens who were conducting the experiments, they seemed a little, I don't know, they seemed a little, I mean, it was an impressive makeup. I just think it was maybe in the way they were portrayed. They seemed a little dorky to me, but
they were very 90s. Like they had these flat top heads. Like they had this really awesome kind of flashy, colorful I imagined it was hypercolor. Do you remember?
I just kept thinking, how does that huge head go through the collar when they put their shirts on?
They beam their clothing onto their bodies. Like they don't need to. It looks like they don't. I don't think they even.
Right.
I don't think they even ever really take off the bodysuit. I think it's just part of their whole thing.
You've done a lot.
Maybe like shapeshifters clothing, like
like Odo. Yeah.
Granted, I mean, my imagination here a lot, but
yeah, I see that. But I think it was an extraordinary showcase for the makeup. Again, I hear what you're saying. I think there are other episodes that showcase the themes better of science experimentation gone wrong, and the captivity scenes to me just had no tension. But I do think there was merit to the sequences aboard the ship where you sort of had the crew dealing with this Picard that was just slightly askew, and you had to wonder. There's an original series episode where Kirk is possessed by somebody else's mind goes into Kirk. It's a woman, and Kirk kind of goes a little wacky, and the crew contemplate mutiny. And I thought it was interesting here. They're doing another meeting off the record in Riker's quarters, and they're somewhat contemplating mutiny. And I thought all of that side of the story was a lot more interesting. I think the only thing that would have made the other side of it interesting is that if somehow Picard could have been made aware of the real Picard could have been made aware of what was happening on the ship. And imagine if he's in captivity, but he's, because it's his doppelganger, he is somehow aware of what his doppelganger is doing. And of course, he's helpless to stop him from either being douchey to Crusher or singing with the crew or any of these things. I mean, I think that would have been very interesting. That would have been a more interesting form of captivity, if you ask me. To have to watch your own double endure, do these things as you, with you unable to do anything to stop it.
Right. But had that occurred, I think it would have been interesting to see just Patrick Stewart responding to these kinds of bizarre circumstances. But the outcome would have been the same, I think. Like the crew would still have gotten
absolutely.
To the point where they did. And like, so I didn't mind that it was, I liked that idea, but I didn't mind the way that the setup was done. What I did like is that there were a lot of, like, as far as the directing and kind of the pacing of the episode is concerned, I did think that was done really well. I liked that there were a lot of scenes where they just focused on the reactions, and it was not necessarily a verbal reaction. Like when Riker calls Picard into the ready room to kind of
close-ups were excellent.
Yeah, like Wesley's reaction, like you could see he's really panicked and worried, like what's going to happen. And yeah, there's a lot of good things. And like, again, the tension in that scene even was really well done with those close-ups again, like just
there was tension on that side of the story.
For sure.
I liked that part, that side of the story. The other side I didn't think was so interesting. It's worth noting that those creatures, I forget, where are they? What are the anarchist creatures called? The Chal.
Chalthot.
Chalna. Okay, those guys appeared because you'll remember Picard mentions that he encountered them before, and there's actually a couple of comics from the DC series of Next Generation, which documents Picard arriving at their planet when he's aboard the Stargazer.
Oh,
yeah. So that's when he encountered that planet, and I haven't read those issues myself, but it's interesting that somebody went ahead and filled in that little piece of backstory there in the comics.
That is pretty cool. The remastering was great. I like the pulsar and the monolith from 2001 looked really good.
The only thing that I didn't really like in the remastering is in the captivity room there was too much flashlight. It reminded me of the JJ movies a tiny bit.
Yeah, but
I don't know how much you remember it, but it's flashlights here, flashlights there, and it's like, okay, why? Now I know where JJ got the idea of.
How many lights? How many lights did you see, Gary?
Yeah.
That was only 4 lights.
Excellent. Good job.
What else can we say? I guess I think the Doctor got the book.
Yes, the book. Let me show off the book. The Bible here. Let's see. Interesting. The book mentions that it's the cage also is another episode where, of course, the original episode. Duh. The episode The Empath from the original series. Do you remember that one? The one with the woman who's mute and
it's all played in the black room, is it?
Yeah, that's a really good episode.
I don't remember that one.
That's an excellent episode. And don't those aliens also? They also have rather large heads as well. Yeah, that's true.
It's an easy way to make an alien.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm having trouble reading. Anything interesting? Basically, it it says standout scenes are the one with Beverly and leading 10 forward in a drinking song and a round of ale. For the record, the song is Hearts of Oak, first performed in 1770. Wow.
Very nice. Heart of Oak, which is what all British ships were made of.
Hera's costume is our first look at a modern Academy cadet uniform, and only our second at the Bolians. See, this book says they're Bolians.
Oh.
Yeah, no, even the episode behind the scenes on Trekkerprise says Bolian, so I think it just messed up the script description.
Yeah.
Actually, that's quite interesting, the cadet uniform, because later on that became the normal uniform. In a variation, but it became the normal one in Voyager and DS9.
Now the aliens which seem to go unnamed, these aliens that did all the kidnapping.
Did they?
They seem to have no name. At least they're not cited. There's no name cited.
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name.
Another Paramount product there.
They ran around at the same time too.
They were, yes. Alien number 1 was played by Jerry Rector, and Alien number 2 was played by Jeff Rector. I can only imagine they're brothers.
Or brothers. They should call them Thing Number 1 and Thing Number 2, like Dr. Seuss. In fact, we should do a Star Trek shirt that says that with their faces on it. There you go. Den of Geek. Or whoever does those.
Oh Lord!
There's a shirt idea for you.
I can't believe you're getting this much mileage out of this episode here.
One thing you didn't mention, and I'm not sure if it's in the book or not, but this episode was ideal for them to kind of recoup the budget a little bit from yesterday's Enterprise. So this was kind of how the shows, and probably still today, go, is that you'll have like a couple of episodes in a season that are just like blockbuster level, really high production value, big special effects, the big episodes, and then you'll have a few of these episodes that take place basically in one room. They didn't have to.
This is a cheap episode. That is true. You basically have the captivity room, which is a redress of who knows what, and then
it looks
everything
like
else is set aboard.
Yeah, it looks like it's just a redress of the little science room that Data built LOL, and it kind of reminded me of that, or some other set like that. You're right.
Although, to be honest, even yesterday's Enterprise, if you really look at the show, all of the scenes are set aboard standing sets. They're just tweaked slightly, and then you have which is also a standing set somewhere, is the battle bridge, which was the sea. So it wasn't, yesterday's Enterprise wasn't that much. I mean, you obviously spent money in the effects, but I don't think yesterday's Enterprise was too much of a budget buster.
I disagree. I think, there was a lot of magic done with lighting, but you had to make all new uniforms for the cast. You had to like create props that like made it look like a different future. Like those things, I think, add up. There were a lot of subtle...
had to make up a big, beautiful studio size Enterprise here as well. At least.
Oh yeah, well yeah, they built.
I'm sure they didn't have it before, so. I think this is the first. Actually, that was the first episode when we saw the introduction of the Ambassador class in terms of starships.
Yeah, we did. But it was right, exactly. So that model would have had to have been built, and all kinds of things. I think it was, considering it probably wasn't expensive like some of the shows that some of the standards for today's shows, but I would say that they probably had to like reallocate a lot of the budget to make it look like a completely different Enterprise. I thought there was a lot of changes. Like, remember the bridge even had like a level. They like it even had a level up. I feel like that's a lot of changes to the bridge to like
Yeah, which is later it will come back, that sort of separation on Generation, on the last the first TNG movie on Generation, because the bridge gets a little cosmetic update as well.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, in
They do
Generation.
it for the-
I mean, I thought
because they were going to shoot it,
wide
with
angle.
better cameras
Yeah.
and wide angles. Obviously, they gotta. Yeah, that's true.
Extra
Yes.
stations in the corridor and everything. So it's really nice. It's really nice. The Enterprise, the Generation bridge. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I would much rather talk about Generations than this episode.
Wow.
There you go. The Generation Enterprise is still the same Enterprise as the TNG Enterprise.
Well, it says here that's awesome. It says here that this was Winrick Colby's favorite episode out of the ones he directed. I like it because we did something stylistically interesting in the lit room where the 4 people were incarcerated. It was Patrick's show, and I always know when it's going to be Patrick's show, it's going to be a good one because he's so damn good in everything that he does. I like the look, and that I agree totally with that. I mean, Patrick Stewart, once again, this is why he's such a revered actor. I think it's just that he can really turn, something less value into something of greater value just through his performance alone.
His performance on aboard the Enterprise, the doppelganger Picard, was I thought was excellent. I mean, at first, at the beginning, you're just not sure what's wrong with him, but you realize he's just a little bit nicer than he usually is. But you can't really mutiny just because your captain is nicer. Or because
he's asking you in the ready room, because that's what he did with Riker.
Right. I mean, I think I thought he did an excellent job, and I think the best part of the episode was his dinner with Crusher. And again, I think Gates McFadden did a fantastic job, because I finally, after all these years, I think I finally understood why they never got together. Even though that conversation was being had with the doppelganger, obviously what Crusher was saying was true for her character, and I finally understood after all these years why. It always bothered me that there never seemed to be any serious conversation between those two characters about why the hell they never. They obviously have a lot of chemistry. They have a lot of connection to each other, and that episode did a lot for me to understand why it didn't happen. Them being an item, and yeah, that for that alone, I admire the episode. Everything else, I can do without.
Do you remember at the end as well when Crusher comes to the bridge and sits next to Picard, and she gives the look?
It's really charming.
Like,
that look.
Engaged. It's like, what's going on here? What did I miss?
Picard is like, oh, what did I do? What did I do?
That was a sweet, awkward moment.
Yeah, even the way he says engage is like a slightly...
It's like, engage?
With a gulp in his throat.
Right. That was perfect. It was perfect.
Yeah.
You remarked about the makeup effects earlier. Well, this episode apparently was nominated for an Emmy Award for Outstanding Achievement in Makeup for a Series.
Well, Jesus, that thing is horrible. That alien. I mean, I can't imagine having to wear that makeup and having to talk, no less. I mean, that thing was just brutal looking. It was. I think that was probably one of the better aliens that I've seen on the Star Trek. Actually, we kind of saw a good mix of what we usually get. We usually get like either something very simple, which the Bolian is, or we get something. Sometimes we get really darky looking ones like the unnamed aliens. But then the other one, the from the
Essog.
Right, that guy. That was just brilliant. Kudos to it's Michael Westmore, right?
Yes.
Probably. Yeah.
Probably most likely.
Oof. Yeah. I'm sure there was a figure of that creature made. Unfortunately, I never bought it. I thought I had it, but I have a Nausicaan is what I have.
Oh, well, they
Yeah.
are similar looking.
Yeah, but I didn't bring it out because it's not the right alien.
Good, keeping the continuity of the action figures. Well, I
Yeah.
think unless there's anything else you guys want to say about this episode, I think it's time for us to round up our ratings. All
Is there anything
I
changed?
concur.
Anything changed in terms of rating system? 1
No,
to 10
it's
still? Or
it's still 1 to 10.
there's Adam's family, goes to Lurkin.
Well, now we have to snap our rating.
rating. Da-da-da-da. Let's see. Shall I go first, gentlemen?
You are
Yes.
the captain.
I after watching the episode, I was entertained by it, but like the Doctor, I just I wasn't too terribly there were a lot of great aspects to it, but it wasn't like it wasn't like how we've been kind of in season 3 going up and up and up and having like these like really awesome episodes. But that being said, I thoroughly enjoyed the Doppelganger Picard sequences, and I thought that the sequence in the captivity, while not having the tension I would have liked, was still a good and interesting study of these characters and exposing us to these like different kind of archetypal ideas or whatnot. We didn't really touch on it, but it had a slightly kind of Hitchcockian vibe to it as well. I thought just like the whole like scene that only one room, what you could do with one room, I guess, that kind of thing. But overall, I would say that I give this episode a 6.5. Okay.
I'll go lower. I think this is an average, slightly below average episode. You know what? I go to 5. I'll be generous. I'll go to 5. It's an average episode.
We're all waiting, Gary.
Yeah, I'm kind of hesitating. I think because I'm always nicer than everyone, so I always give a little bit more. But I think I have to agree with you, Sohail. Now, I think I give a 6.5. It was a good episode in terms of seeing a couple of bits and pieces here and there. Because of the look that Beverly gave to Picard at the end of the episode, that was just I think that was priceless. But yeah, overall, it's not an episode that it just sticks in your mind for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's just you watch it once, you think about it a little bit, and then move along for the next one, or just think about the previous one, like Yesterday's Enterprise, and then Scenes of Father, or just other episodes, because this is just fill the gaps between two great episode was, I think.
That's exactly how I feel it. Yeah.
So it's like 6.5. Yes, I'm being generous.
Exactly
do you guys think do you guys think that this is what's killed the 20 some odd episode season in American television? I've noticed that even shows nowadays, they're like more like 15 episodes a season or 13 episodes, or some shows are shorter. Do you think like I find lots of value in overall in the filler episodes, as Gary described, because they do feel like filler episodes, like they're episodes in between like bigger stories or whatever. But at the end of the day, when I tally up my experiences with Star Trek: The Next Generation, I feel like there's a richer and fuller understanding because of episodes like this, like because that doppelganger scenes in that moment with Beverly, like you, Doctor, you found value in that in terms of your understanding of their relationship overall. And had this episode not existed, or if you had Star Trek like what Discovery's going to be, is like I think 13 episodes a season, does that mean 15. Like your stories are now going to be even more? Are they going to make them all more of the big stories, and do we not have room for these like little stories anymore? What do you guys think about that?
I think I don't think anybody sets out to make necessarily a filler episode. I think it's just what ends up happening. Now, the reason we get them is obviously schedules cause certain episodes to not live up to everything that the makers of the episodes intended. But one person's filler episode might be another person's
favorite
gem.
episode. Yeah,
right. I mean, for me personally, I know one that is considered to be fairly a filler episode is is going forward a little bit, is the episode right after Best of Both Worlds, where Picard goes back home.
Oh, family.
I love it. That's not a filler episode. That's an epic.
A lot of people consider it filler. Yes,
really?
A lot of people do. Yeah, yeah. You go online. It's not a highly regarded.
I don't know any Star Trek fans that consider that a filler.
Well, we'll hear from.
I totally consider that episode as a background story for Picard and his family relation.
Definitely. I agree. I completely agree. But I've heard some people that were quite bored by, it's like, oh, we just came off, it's a kind of a,
Yeah, where are the space battles and stuff.
Some people had the same issue with the Insurrection after watching it in First Contact, and it was like a heavily action-packed episode, and then Insurrection, it was like a kind of, that's what a lot of people said, and then
there's so much action. There's so much action in Insurrection. It's just
absolutely. But someone says, "Oh, it was just like
when we do the Star Trek erection
what
conversation. It's going to be so interesting. I have to tell you.
Insurrection.
Oh, Insurrection. Sorry.
Yes, I know that a lot of times we've called it Star Trek erection by accident. Or purposely, maybe, I don't know. But
going to your point about the filler episodes, I agree with you. I think that sometimes you get some real gems in the material that's presented. I personally prefer longer seasons than because I look at Doctor Who, for example. I wish Doctor Who was a longer season. I feel like the pace doesn't allow for much breadth of scope or character moments when you look at when you compare it to the classic show. And we're going to have, for the first time with Star Trek, a Star Trek on the schedule where it's
punchy all the time.
It's punchy all the time. It's going to be interesting to see how we react to it.
And actually, having the three of you here, I don't mean to drag this on any further, but having the three of you here, since this like major Star Trek Discovery trailer, and now it's a few weeks behind us, how are you sitting with the idea of Star Trek Discovery? Is there any excitement about it? Are you less excited? What's going on in your minds about Star Trek Discovery? Okay, that answers my question. Nothing's going on.
It's like I don't even think about it. I try to just forget the whole thing. I mean, I know it sounds a little harsh, but as long as I have the next generation and going forward, I have like Voyager. As this is the Equinox, but even. But no, I still feel this bit disheartened about the whole thing. I mean, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get more materials on later on, and it will be a different show, and we might get classic Klingons, and we might get classic style Star Trek, which I highly doubt. But I don't know. I think the Discovery is just a new era of sci-fi Trek series. It's not a Star Trek that I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
So it's my Star Trek is, I know it's a bit selfish, but my Star Trek is from 1966 till 2005.
That's true. That is true. That is true for many of us. And I remember Sohail and I, we've had many conversations about Doctor Who, and I think one of the things I'm very fond of saying is that Doctor Who is made for someone else now. It's not made for me. And I think this Star Trek is a Star Trek that is made for, will probably be made for someone else, and not necessarily us. And what's the quote from the Klingon Chancellor as he's dying to Kirk? No, not as he's dying, but as he's leaving the Enterprise. We will have
a difficult time to live in the new in this new undiscovered country, or something like that.
We are so in the spirit of Star Trek, we're going into the undiscovered country, and it is true. Perhaps it is time for our way of seeing Star Trek, for us to like kind of we hold the candle or the torch, we're the torchbearers of that Star Trek, but that we have to allow for the next generation, so to speak, to express themselves as they would wish. And so so that's a really good point. I know we've kind of I guess I grapple with it a little bit, but at the same time that does make a lot of logical sense to me, what you just said right now about that, and comparing it to Star Trek 6. That was interesting.
It's just and not just that. I mean, I remember a lot of conversation, a lot of classic Trek fan who grew up with the original series, and they were watching them at the first time as a kid. And when Next Generation came along, they were like, "Nah, that's not the Star Trek for me." And then for them, the original series will be always the starting point, the quote-unquote one and only, and nothing else. And obviously, maybe they will get along with the other ones, and they will like Voyager and DS9 and maybe Enterprise as well. But then now we got to the point when we have this 1966 till 2005 period, and that's what Trek means for us. And then we have to get along with the next generation of Trek series.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to think that 1966 is grouped now with, let's say, 1987 is when Next Generation started, because really the differences between the original show and the Next Generation are quite remarkable. I mean, the original show was made in an era where, for an adventure show such as Star Trek, it was just expected that you would have one or two, fisticuffs in there. The lead star would somehow lose his shirt, and something. Those were very standard to that kind of television. Those are the typical tropes. Yet, by the time we get to Next Generation, obviously, you don't have those expectations anymore. You don't have, you don't have to have the fist fight. You can be a little closer to what Gene Roddenberry was thinking originally. You can be a little brainier in the plots.
I guess that all just stems from a desire for us to see Star Trek be successful, because I feel like, historically speaking, even though it's a small portion of history here, as long as I've seen shows like Star Trek thriving, I've always felt better about the direction that our society is heading in. And so,
did Gary freeze?
Gary? Oh, whoa! Is Gary frozen?
Gary's frozen.
Gary's frozen.
Gary.
Oh no.
Gary.
That's what happened. He's on the other side of the galaxy here.
Oh no. By the way, can I just take a moment, because we know you're talking about stats off. Can we say off camera?
Yeah, we don't discuss stats online when we're alive.
Oh, we don't?
No, I don't like it too. I don't know. You can do it. It's fine.
Oh, no, but you were just saying how there are some people that listen to us versus people who watch us. This is why I prefer. I think the best way to view us is to view us and not just to listen to us, because people won't understand that Gary's frozen if they're just listening to us.
I mean, well, I think that that's a good time now, since Gary is frozen, to say that.
Gary go?
I don't know, but hopefully he'll be back. Let me re-invite him here. I'm gonna eject him.
I like his logo. I had never seen his logo before.
Oh yeah, and he designs. Which, by the way, I should do this when he's back on. Hold on, Trekkerprise here. So this is a good time to plug the technologies at use here. So Starfleet Boy is a YouTube channel primarily. So I think the ideal way to participate with our discussions is to actually be on the show, by the way. So you're totally invited, audience members, if you want to be on the show. That's awesome. But also to watch us interact. There's like things that the Doctor does, like he has figures and things like that he presents, and like, you know, sometimes there'll be a model or whatever. Oh, hello. Oh, look at that. And then you have warm family moments like this, actually, which you don't get. There's just a kid that's
I think that's my cue.
I know.
That's my nephew. I'm
anyways,
sorry.
We use Google Hangouts to do the discussions, and so thank you, Google Technology. But then we take the audio and we simulcast it on podcast. So yes, the podcast is I hope entertaining, but different from the YouTube. So anyways,
all right, you want to say goodbye?
Yeah.
All right, live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
I'm sorry, I guess I gotta go. Gary left.
Fine. Gary disappeared. This happens sometimes on our show because of technology.
Okay.